First of all, Chodesh Tov. Should have a good Chodesh. This is a difficult Chodesh. It's a Chodesh with, even though it's, with Dinim, Hashem gave us the name, beautiful name, Chodesh Av. Hashem is still telling us within the month, there is plenty what to feel in terms of feeling Hashem's presence, Be'ezrat Hashem. I want to talk a little bit about, the whole idea of Challah, Be'ezrat Hashem. A lot of us have really come to become so used to the fact of just going out to the bakery and buying our challah, and that's really convenient at certain times and certain Shabbatot and certain moments of the month and certain times of the year. But as a most part, I would really like for us to walk away tonight, number one, with a warm emotional association, thank you, with the whole idea of challah, to hopefully be able to understand a little bit more what the beauty behind the mitzvah of challah is. And that's one of the reasons why I asked everyone to also come with the ingredients so that we can mix it together. Because as we mix it together, we mix in our love and our kavanas and our blessings, and everything comes into the challah together. And essentially, when you go to the bakery and you buy a challah, it's like buying a body without a soul. And when we put our love and we put our tefillot and we put all of our kavanas into the challah, we're literally, as we know, we are balls of spiritual energy, and every word that we say, every kavana, every thought, speech, and action, that's what the Jewish mission is all about. We should refine our thoughts and our speech and our actions. Everything that we do essentially has rippled effects further away. A fact is, let me teach you an insight. What happens to our tefillot? When we say a tefillah for Yaakov ben Esther, right? Let's say we say a tefillah. I'm going and I'm davening for Yaakov ben Esther, that he should have a complete refuah shlema, right? And I'm sure there's a Yaakov ben Esther someone out there that needs a complete refuah, so he should have a complete refuah shlema. What happens to those words? So the mystical teachings teach us that those words, literally, the sound waves, as they're leaving my mouth, they travel and travel and travel and travel like a GPS. They find their way to Yaakov ben Esther, and they envelop him when they reach him, and they essentially envelop Yaakov ben Esther with a sense of warmth, a sense of love, a sense of strength. And he actually feels my tefillah, subconsciously. Now imagine if thousands of people are saying Yaakov ben Esther. Imagine, as we saw this week, I'm sure everyone heard the beautiful miracle of Chaya Rezel Bat Dina. She should have a complete refuah shlema, continuous complete refuah shlema. Tomorrow I'm actually speaking at the Ohel Sarah main group, Bezrat Hashem in Lawrence, for the mother of this beautiful, young, special lady. And the idea is, imagine these thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of tefillot that kept enveloping her bed, enveloping her family, because we also daven for the family that they should have koach. Imagine the power of all of these sound waves, all this warmth, all this this comfort, this care, this support that come and is now enveloping this challah. And so on and so forth. So this is essentially the koach of Am Yisrael. And Hashem, let's understand that Hashem created the world with speech. Hashem created the world through speaking the world into existence. And so that when we speak, just to give you a little bit of a Kabbalistic sort of insight, how important it is, our tefillot, how important it is to speak. And tonight we're going to also see that when we're kneading and if you take, for instance, even the word lalush means to knead, when we knead the bread. The word lalush comes from the word lashon, my tongue. The whole idea of lalush et batzek, to knead the dough, is to speak. It's to nurture it. It's to cradle it. In fact, as the mystical teachings teach us, that the bowl is like an arisa. It's like a cradle. It's there to sort of really, we should feel that the dough is like a baby, like we're really taking care of it, we're worrying about it, because all of our kavanas, all of our speech, everything is inside that dough. We're pouring our hearts out, we're pouring our koach out into, for those of us who don't have a bash machine, right? For all those that are doing it by hand, we're actually putting our koach into this dough. But to talk just one more moment about the whole idea of speech. When we speak, the Sfarim HaKadoshim teach us that speech, our mouths, in the 10 Sefirot, the mouth is actually Malchut. This is where you appoint yourself, and you appoint yourself to be king over your emotions. When you speak, you have this ability to rule over your emotions and your thoughts. And that is why it is so important to pray and to talk about your emotions to Hashem, to talk about what you want, to talk about your desires, to talk about your wishes, to talk about your yearning and your craving and your longing, because it's through the speaking that we're able to essentially control our emotions. And so many women that I meet from all around the world, there's one issue that every woman seems to have a problem, including me, and that is how I believe, they say, Orit, I believe, I know Hashem is in charge of my life. I have no doubt that Hashem loves me. But why am I so upset? Why am I so frustrated? What is going on? How do I get it to affect my heart? How do I get it to affect my emotions? So Rabbi Nachman Zatzal teaches us, He'emanti ki adaber. I want to increase my emunah. Start speaking, ladies. Start speaking. We were given, right? The 9 channels of speech came down, 10 channels of speech came down to the world. Women took 9. Notice how much we speak. And why? Because Hashem said, because I want you to use it not for idle chatter and for gossip and all the stuff that we get lured into. No, I want you to be able to speak to me, because you're emotional creatures, you're spiritual creatures, and I want you to use that ability, that gift to speak, to become king and queen over your emotions. And to get me, so to speak, Hashem says, to get me to do what you're asking me to do. Can you believe that? Hashem wants us to convince him to do that which he really wants, but he wants us to come to that conclusion alone. He wants us to yearn and desire for wholesomeness and simcha and geula on our own. And when we do, we yell out to him. And when we yell out to him, we align our ratzon with his ratzon, and this brings nachat ruach to Hashem. That is the nachat ruach to Hashem, that he essentially feels that we are one with him. With that, let's go into the introduction of Challah. What is the whole idea about Challah? Challah is, if we can go back to the beginning of time, go back to Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon, according to the Arizal, according to the Sfarim HaKadoshim, the Adam HaRishon was called Isato Shel Olam. Adam HaRishon was called the Challah of the world. How can that be? Hashem, the Arizal goes down and explains, and this is, again, we're going very pshat here, we're going very simplistic, but I want us to understand what we're doing when we're doing Challah. Hashem, so to speak, took the earth from the 4 corners of the world, and then took water from the 4 corners of the world, and mixed it together, so to speak, like a dough, and created the flesh and the body of Adam HaRishon. And so Adam HaRishon is called Isato Shel Olam, the dough of the world. So essentially what happened is Hashem took and made a dough, and Chava, which, because, of the sin, which we're all part of Chava, and we're all part of Adam, so, we shouldn't go pointing fingers at someone else. It's also us. We're carrying part and sparks of his neshama and are here to fix and correct also that. But essentially, Chava took that dough, so to speak, and made it, you could say sour. You could say that basically caused damage to Adam HaRishon, to the first Challah. And that is why every Jewish woman should make it her custom as best as possible, yes, without yelling at the kids. I mean, if we could do it in a calm, collected, joyful way as much as possible, even if it's once a month, Rosh Chodesh, Be'ezrat Hashem, we essentially should come and do the challah, because through that, when did the sin happen? Erev Shabbat. And so essentially when we go ahead and we perform the mitzvah of Hafreshat Challah, we essentially are aligning ourselves with the idea of correcting the transgression of Chava and bringing about the tikkun olam and hastening up. The mitzvah of Hafreshat Challah was given to us in Parashat B'Shelach. It was the first mitzvah that Am Yisrael was given upon entering Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because imagine this, Am Yisrael came out of the midbar. They were clothed, they were nice and cozy, they had the clouds hovering over them, nice natural shade, helping them out. They didn't have to change their clothes, they didn't have to worry about sustenance, they didn't have to worry about food, they had to worry about nothing. They were totally taken care of. Suddenly, they come into Eretz Yisrael, and Hashem says, okay, guys, get to work. Start harvesting the land, start growing the wheat, harvesting, working, doing. Wait a minute, I'm a spoiled brat here. I got everything taken care of me. Now you want me to go and work? And Am Yisrael did not want to go in. That's one of the reasons that are brought down why we didn't want to come into Eretz Yisrael. Imagine that, Eretz Yisrael, the promised land, and we didn't want to go in because we would have rather been spoiled in the midbar. But okay, we had to go in. Hashem made us go in, and essentially, once we got in, Hashem said, but listen, I know how hard it is going to be for you to stay attached to me while you're working the land. I mean, after all, working 9 to 5, having to travel the subways, going in taxis, Ubers, all this, makes you somehow disconnect from me, and somehow or another you might forget that I have been arranging your life. I'm the one that helped you through college. I'm the one who got you the job. I'm the one who gave you the bonus at the end of the year. It's going to be very hard for you to continue to remember me. So Hashem says, when I put you in Eretz Yisrael, you have to remember that I'm involved in the mundaneness of the workplace, the everyday workplace. So I'm giving you the mitzvah of Hafreshat Challah so that you can infuse the Monday work, everyday work, system with the remembrance that I'm the one who's in charge of life. I'm the one who's bringing you the parnasa. And so essentially, if you look at it, even you two ladies, that you are here sitting in Michutz la'Eretz Yisrael, on the physical aspect, we're all in Galus. Even us in Eretz Yisrael, we're all in Galus. But we're a little bit less affected, of course, by the Galus when you're in Eretz Yisrael, but doesn't matter. Even you ladies here, sitting here on Admat Nechal in the foreign country, not on Eretz Yisrael's soil, when you go ahead and you perform Hafreshat Challah, do you know what you're doing? You're giving the zchut for Eretz Yisrael to be owned and to be inhabited by Jewish people. Because essentially the first mitzvah gave us the right to live in Eretz Yisrael, and that was Hafreshat Challah. So every time that we do Hafreshat Challah, it's like you're taking a vote that you agree that the Jewish people should be the rightful owners of Eretz Yisrael, and you're putting it in the UN box. You're essentially giving koach for the Jewish people to have the right to inhabit and live in Eretz Yisrael peacefully. So remember that. The other thing I want to mention in terms of the importance of doing Hafreshat Challah, what do we essentially do when we take the challah and we take a little piece? Think about it. We take a little piece and we lift it up, and you don't perform the mitzvah of Hafreshat Challah unless you say the 3 words, Harei Zo Challah. Do you know that? Those 3 words, Harei Zo Challah, when you lift it up, Kmo Kurban al Mizbeach, you're lifting it up as if it's a korban on the Mizbeach of the Bet HaMikdash. When you lift it up, before you did that bracha, before you separated the challah, that dough in that bowl was Isur Gamur. If a person partakes and enjoys the challah before the hafrasha, it's like he's eating something asur. He's not allowed to enjoy it. He's totally not allowed to enjoy it. But those 3 words, the idea of the hafrasha, you have now transformed something that is totally prohibited to something that is completely permitted and is even a mitzvah. Imagine the power of hafrashat challah. I'm taking something and Hashem is giving me the zchut. Talk about co-creator. Talk about being part and partners with the CEO of the entire existence. Hashem has now given us women the ability to take something that was previously asur and now make it mutar. And by doing so, Hashem gives to us the ultimate gift of kindness. Hashem now has enabled us, Hashem, who is the ultimate giver, has now given us the ability to be the biggest givers of all, to be able to create something with that which we are doing with our own hands. And that is essentially the greatest gift that Hashem gives us. He puts us in a world and He makes us work, He makes us refine, and essentially our work transforms existence. And we feel that and we see that and we taste it a little bit on the surface, like when we do the hafrashat challah. Let's look a little bit at the play of words in terms of challah. First of all, interestingly enough, where was David born? David HaMelech? Anybody know? Which town? Come on, Chumash 101. Everybody forgot Bes Yaakov, girls and everything? Huh? Bethlehem. He was born in Bethlehem. Imagine that the Mashiach was born in a house of bread. What is that telling you? It's not just stam. Nothing is stam. Nothing is by coincidence. It means that through the performance of bringing challah, lechem into your bayit, you are essentially infusing in your home. Your home becomes a home of geula. Your home becomes a place that has the tendency to receive Mashiach, where the light of Mashiach begins to illuminate in your home. Just a little, again, I'm trying to get all you ladies very excited here tonight about making challah. Another thing I want to mention, if you look at the gematria, let's look at 2 different gematrias about the whole idea of challah. Magen, the gematria, the numerical value of magen is 93. If you take challah, challah is 43. And if you add 50, which when you do the hafrasha, you take 150, if that's the quantity you're supposed to take out from the challah, you get 93. So through the mitzvah of challah and the hafrasha of the challah, you're going to have hagana and protection, be'ezrat Hashem, on your home. Another gematria. 145 is equal to the word isa. What did we say isa is? The dough. If you take the word challah, 43, and you add to it, my favorite word, emuna, 102. 102 plus 43 is 145. 145, which is isa, which is dough. So by doing challah, by lifting up the challah and saying, Hashem, I worked, I toiled. I went to the supermarket. It was so heavy. It was so hot outside, and I toiled, and I brought the bags, even though I could have gone over to, I don't know, Butterflake Bakery or wherever it is, and I could have just gotten my challahs for maybe even half the price. I went ahead and I lifted it up, and I said, no, no, no. At the end of the day, with all my toil, all the things that I do, I'm lifting it up to you. Harei zo challah, it belongs to you. What am I? What am I? I just did a couple of chores here. But essentially, it's all belongs to you. You're the menahel of the entire world. And so through that, what am I getting? Emunah. Through that, I'm instilling inside of myself the fact that Hashem runs the world. Baruch Hashem. Challah reminds us of the word hatchala, the beginning. By doing challah, we have the ability to envelop ourselves with a sense of new beginning. All those decrees, all those difficulties, all those hardships, through challah, be'ezrat Hashem, we will be able to create for ourselves a new beginning of more joyful, a more simcha-filled way, an easier way, a more filled of rachamim kind of way to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Challah, if you take the word and you divide it into two, we have chet lamed, right? And then the hey. The chet lamed, depending on where the vowel is, could be also chol and can also be chal. So chal means, again, the start, Hashem, the beginning of Hashem. Why? Because through the mitzvah of performing hafreshat challah, you are essentially, what are we doing? Taking the first part of the challah and giving it to Hashem. And again, here's another hint to understanding that through the idea of challah, if you look at just the name challah, you remind yourself that everything begins, chal begins with Hashem. And if you look at it from the other vowel, chol Hashem, what are we doing? What is chol? Chol means avdil ben kodesh lechol. Chol means mundane, everyday, work week. By performing the mitzvah of challah, we are taking the everyday activity and we're infusing it with Hashem, where again, look at all of these simanim, all of these signs of the ability of injecting Hashem into our everyday life, be'ezrat Hashem. And just another one, let's just do another play of words. I have so many of them. Also, we have the word hachlama. Hachlama means healing. It's through the mitzvah, particularly when you knead that dough. When you put that dough together, all those little ingredients that once were, here's the flour, and here's the salt, and here's the yeast, and here's the sugar. Everything was separated. When you put that water in, and you mix it together, and you knead it together, again, you're creating something new, something that was not there when the ingredients were separated. And so, be'ezrat Hashem, when we knead the dough, we daven that through the putting together, Hashem will put together all of the necessary ingredients for healing for all those in need. And that's briut nefesh, it's briut guf. It means the components and the elements that people need in their homes for shalom bayit, the ingredients that people need in order to be, please God, be zochet to children, to zera bal kayama, to put together an ish and isha for shidduchim. It gives us the ability to mamash put together and heal the world, be'ezrat Hashem. So with that, I'd say let's get our stuff together, and we're going to start doing the challah, and then I'll come back after and talk a little bit more. But let's start with the program. So now that we've our dough is beautifully taken form, and Baruch Hashem, it's now in its proper position to rise. I want to mention a couple of different ideas while it's rising. A few things we want to make sure, first of all, again, is to cover the bowl with a bag, because we definitely want to keep that activity of the gases of the shmarim to stay within the bowl and not let it dissipate by covering it with a towel. I usually put the entire bowl inside a garbage bag, and let me bring you down a very beautiful, beautiful segula that's brought down from the Zohar HaKadosh. We didn't bring it today, but Be'ezrat Hashem, next week when we do our challah again, we will remember this segula. You take a whole head of garlic. Now, the idea of garlic is not just baba maisa. It really does have its effect in being able to ward off bad energy. So the segula is to take a whole head of garlic, put it on top of the bag as the dough is rising. This will bring about two things. Number one, the rising will take place quicker. And number two, what the Zohar brings down, more importantly, is that the garlic now is working its way, don't ask me how, I don't understand it, but on a metaphysical manner, the garlic actually draws all the brachas that we put into the dough, takes part of it, leaves the rest of it in for us to also enjoy while we eat it. But what it does is it takes it, and you take that head of garlic, don't use it for your madbucha, and don't use it for your meals. You're not supposed to eat it. You take it, you wrap it in, after the rising process is done, you wrap it in like a white computer paper, something completely so it's not seen to the eye, and you take that garlic and you put it on your windowsill of your bedroom. And what it does is it feeds your home the entire week with all of the brachas that you put into your dough. But no, the idea is that nobody should know about it. After a week, open up that garlic and see how it looks. If you had ayin hara in your home, the garlic will have rotted and pulled away all of the ayin hara from your home. And if it's intact, it means Baruch Hashem, I have no ayin hara, and so no ayin hara is coming my way either. But it's baduk min from the Zohar Kadosh. That's what the segula of the garlic. You had a question? So again, we're going to say this again. It's important to note. You take the whole head, whole head. It has to be whole. A whole head of garlic. You place it on the bag on top of your challah. Okay? You allow your dough to rise. Then you take your garlic. You wrap it in paper, either in white computer paper or something that it should not be seen to the human eye. And you put it on the windowsill of your bedroom. It's important. The bedroom is the Kodesh HaKodeshim. That's why we put it in the bedroom. And Be'ezrat Hashem, it should just sit there. Rain, shine, snow, let it sit there. What you'll do is, you wrap it. You wrap it in paper. What I do is basically I put it in, I roll it up, and then I fold the two sides, and I just leave it there on the windowsill. And you check that garlic after a week or the next time you bake challah. It could stay there. If you don't make challah till 6 months, let it sit there. Let it sit there. Let it sit there. You should check it though after a week, just for that purpose of seeing if it's rotted or not. And don't blame it on the weather, and don't blame it on the ants, and don't blame it on whatever. If it rots, it's rotting because of the fact that it's pulling ayin hara. Outside. Outside, not in the house. You want it outside. I'm sorry. Well, I don't know. In Israel, we have like a ledge, and you have soagim, and you have like. It's heavy enough. It should sit there. A whole head. Yeah, it should sit there. I don't know what kind of storms we have. I lived in America. It's not that stormy. A garlic. The bedroom. There's nothing there. Can you hang it off? Can you find a way of putting it in a bag? Maybe hang it off. Do something. Be creative. Come on. All right? And the idea is for you to leave it there until the next time you make challah. But if you want, you could check it after a week and see if it does look a little rotty or if it starts to rot, then you know, Be'ezrat Hashem, it did its job and it's taken away the bad energies and the bad forces. Be'ezrat Hashem, there should be none in Am Yisrael, should be on our enemies. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that's, just another little segula. The Zohar Kadosh. Zohar Kadosh brings it down. This garlic idea, yes. Yes. I mean, it's not for nothing that our grandmothers used to put garlic on top of I know till today, I have garlic and I have coarse salt sitting on top of right on top of my doorway. Yes, that's what they put. And it's not for nothing. It's known. It's a known biblical teaching that garlic has the ability to ward off bad energies. And so this in particular, what it's nice is it also takes and it also pumps. So it's nice. It's like that secular, that cycle, Baruch Hashem. The next time that you make challah, you just discard that garlic and you put a new one on. No, now it has to be now before you do the hafrasha. Before you do the hafrasha. Right, you put the bowl in a garbage bag, a clean garbage bag, in a garbage bag, and then you put the garlic on top of it and open. Yes. Now I want to teach you also something new that a lot of women don't know. So again, I'm really trying to encourage us ladies to do the mitzvah of hafrashat challah, do it with the kavanas, really bring bracha into our house. I'm going to give you a system. Before I was diagnosed with MS, I learned in culinary school, so I'm not just a speaker and a muna, but I'm also a trained chef by profession. I had my own catering business for 15 years in the tri-state area, so I learned professionally how to cook and bake. So I'm going to teach you a system that's not Torah-based, but just, chokhmat b'goyim ta'amin, that it's a system that if you want to start preparing, you want to make challah, it's very hard, 100% to start making challah Thursday night. It's very difficult. We're busy with our lives. So I'm going to teach you a system, Be'ezrat Hashem, to be able to start making challah already on Wednesday. You make the challah on Wednesday. You do everything that we just did. You put the garlic on top of the bag, and you put the bowl in the refrigerator. And you let it rise in the refrigerator. It's a process in culinary terms called retardation. You're retarding the dough. You're causing the dough to grow, but in a very, very slow manner. And Thursday, before Shkia, you take the bowl out of the refrigerator. You let it warm down a little bit to room temperature. Thursday before Shkia, or whenever, like an hour or two before you're ready to do the hafrasha, you take it out of the refrigerator. Then it warms down. You do the hafrasha, okay? You do the garlic thing, and then you do your braiding.
you put it on the English pans or whatever pans you decide to use, right? You egg it, you sesame seed it, you chocolate it, you garlic it, you whatever it, and then you put it back in the refrigerator on Thursday night. Again. And it will do its second rising in the refrigerator again. You get up in the morning, you have gorgeous grown, blown challahs, and you put it straight into the oven on 200 degrees Celsius or, 400. Thursday night, you do everything Thursday night. So you don't have to bake it even Thursday night. And Friday morning, you wake up to amazing aroma of Gan Eden in your home. And the process started on Wednesday, and you really almost didn't feel it because you broke down the whole process. So it makes it a lot easier. Yes. Listen, if by the time you put it in the refrigerator, it was out for a half an hour, then that's a problem. And if your refrigerator is not cold enough, that's also a problem. So in other words, it has to all be situated so that it's really all, working, in that advantage that it's in a cool environment, it's covered properly so it also doesn't dry out, and that, no chance of it smell. In other words, at this point, I finished, I covered it, I put the garlic, I put straight in the refrigerator. I don't waste time, it was straight in the refrigerator. I did my braiding, but I brushed it. As I start doing it, I already find it rising, but I'm throwing it right into the refrigerator. And you only fill up the pan halfway or 3/4. You're gonna have such an airy and such a yummy. Another thing, what this does too, by the way, it allows the protein strands you have developed. Why do we need? We need, I'm talking just from a scientific perspective, why do we need? We're developing the protein strands that are located inside the wheat, and we're toughening them up so that they will be able to rise and still remain in its proper shape that we shaped it in. So when you allow the dough to rest in the refrigerator for a long period of time, like a day, like I just mentioned, you're allowing those strands to rest. And when you allow those strands to rest, they won't tend to break apart so easily. Sometimes we make the braids and then it seems to rip and to tear. And that happens a lot because the strands have been overworked and they haven't been given a chance to rest. So by doing so, we're allowing them to, in due time, slowly rise and giving it time to rest so that they will maintain better chance of them maintaining the shape in long term. From the refrigerator, you can warm it down for 10 minutes to room temperature, turn on your oven, whatever, and then yes, shove it straight in the oven for about no more. At that point, it should not be more than 20 minutes to bake. On a high temperature. You want it on a high temperature. You don't want to do it low because again, you're drying it out. You're going to have 20, once it's golden, in America, I would do even 375, 400, I would even do it. Yeah. High temp. If it doesn't bake around the sides when it's in the pan, I put parchment paper on my pan, and I pick once it gets its shape and it's a little bit more hard and it's brown on top, what I do is I lift it up from out of the pan, I put it on the regular sheet pan, and I let these sides brown a little bit more, and I right away take it out. It's nice, it's soft, it's crisp. Again, that's another thing. You have to check your ovens. Don't blame it on the challah. Sometimes our ovens aren't working properly. Why am I saying to wait until after Shkia? The mitzvah, the ideal performance of the mitzvah of Hafreshat Challah is on Erev Shabbos. So you want to wait for Shkia. You could do it on Monday afternoon too, but you really go for the big shbang of the bracha and the tikkun of Chava. You want to wait till Shkia. The idea of hafrasha, again, you could look it up on Shulchan Aruch. All women, generally 90% of the women, when I do hafrashat challah, Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem, I have the schut, Hashem has given me the schut a lot of times to do these beautiful evenings of hafrashat challah, filled with bracha and tefillah and tshuva and be'ezrat Hashem, a lot of kedusha. So generally, most women are very surprised by what I'm about to say to you. But again, this is baduk. I've asked Rebbeim over this over and over again because every time I do it and I get the, really? I didn't know that. I go back to the Rav and I said, but they keep saying to me that it. So, but I've checked it and rechecked it and checked it again and understand the hafrasha itself is considered tuma. When you take the hafrasha away from the challah, it is not, you're not allowed to enjoy even a crumb of that hafrasha because it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the Kohen HaGadol. And Be'ezrat Hashem, in the Zchut of Chodesh Av, we're going to have the Kohen HaGadol. Amen. But so long as we don't have the Beis HaMikdash and we don't have the Kohen to give the hafrasha to, we are not allowed to partake and enjoy it. Meaning, if I take the hafrasha out and a crumb of it on my finger or whatever fell back into the dough, you have to ask a Shelat Rav if you're allowed to actually still use that dough. Some say it's batel, but shishim, you should really actually consult the Rav. There's some Rebbeim that will tell you actually that you cannot use that dough. So when you do the hafrasha, it's very important. In any case, if you do use it with your hands, make sure you wash your hands after the hafrasha and make sure it's clean of all of that dough. But in order to ensure it even more so, do it either with a glove, do it with foil, do it with something else, and still wash your hands if you can, or at least check it, make sure that you're, making that effort. And then, as you're pulling it away, also pull it away from the bowl so that nothing drips down on it. In terms of the size that a lot of women ask me, well, how much hafrasha? We spoke about this 1/50th. Really, that's that. What does that mean? It's generally in a regular sized dough, like 5 pounds or 2 plus 2 1/4 kilo. It's the size of an egg, the size of a ping pong ball. That's all you need. So you don't need to take out the size of a challah in order for it to, for you to perform that mitzvah. There's no inyan about it. And last but not least, what do I do with the hafrasha? So many women have this question. What do I do with the hafrasha once I take it out? Do I put it in a double bag? Do I discard it? What do I do? Do I, throw it to the cats? What do I do with it? How do you burn it? Thank you. That's Be'ezrat Hashem. We're going to learn what we're supposed to do. Only in the event that I have no other way of burning it am I allowed to essentially use the idea of taking the challah and double bagging it and discarding it b'chavod, with honor. That's not something you should do michatchila. From chatchila, you should not take it and put it in 2 bags and just discard it. You should make all the efforts that you possibly can and burn it. How to burn it? So, here in Admat Nechal, when you're sitting not in Eretz Yisrael, there is, and please don't bite me and please don't get angry at me, I'm just a messenger here. There is what's called the spiritual entity of shedim. Demons, demonic, energies, only are they in existence outside of Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, you have other things. You've got ruchot, you've got all the other guys, but you don't have shedim. And so it's suggested that for those of us that reside here, for those of you who reside here in Queens, soon be'eretz Yisrael, amen. Because I'm still pumping and hoping and praying for you all to do aliyah like now, 1 minute before Mashiach comes, when there's still room on El Al. Okay? You can come to my house and stay over. I'll show you the ropes of Ramat Bet Shemesh. And I mean it. I'm not kidding. Come back to Eretz Yisrael. Don't get me started. I really can. I should be working for Nefesh B'Nefesh. I shouldn't be doing Hafrashot Challah. I should be, I should have the bandana of the, Anyway, the idea is what you should do with the hafrasha is you should put it on the stovetop when it's double wrapped in foil so that none of the hafrasha is really getting on your railings. And the smoke that is generated wards off the shadim in your home. You should not have. Hold on. You don't put it in the stove. You put it on your stovetop. That doesn't go for those of us who live in Eretz Yisrael. You could do something else. But for those who live in the Gola, for right now, I'm not giving you much time, then you should put it on the stovetop, let it smoke. It shouldn't be edible. It should be burnt to the point where even a kelev, a dog, would not eat it. That's how you know you've burnt it enough. And then you put it in a double bag and you discard it, you throw it away. You turn the flame up, you take that ball of hafrasha sitting in a double foil, you put it on the open flame, and you let the smoke, and then I just literally turn it around, like I'm doing a barbecue. I turn it around, make sure all sides are burnt, and once it's burnt, I let it cool down a little bit, I put it in 2 bags, and I've performed my mitzvah of hafrashat challah. You can alternatively, oh, well, let me just finish. Alternatively, you could, if you want, and you want to forego that whole demon thing, you can go ahead and you could just also double wrap it. And again, this is something I've asked a number of Rebbeim. You can double foil it, put it on the bottom of your oven with nothing else in the oven, making sure nothing else is in the oven, ensuring, don't put it on a pan, put it on the bottom of your oven, on the floor itself of the oven, and let it burn until, again, it's totally burned to the crisp. And the third option would be to have a barbecue and actually barbecue it over a flame also outside, which is when I do hafrashat challah events, where there's I come home with garbage, with garbage can fulls of hafrashah, and I'm not going to start, baking them in my oven. So I actually open up my mangal, I open up my barbecue, and I just start laying them, and then I just then I discard it. So that's, if you're doing it in quantity, that's another option. So I've answered those questions, yes. No, well, if you're going to throw away the tin, yeah. You don't want it to touch anything. And then when you take it off the grid, the stovetop grid, you want to make sure that nothing burned through. And if it does, you have to scrape it off. Make sure that it doesn't. That's why you wrap it off. That's why you wrap it up twice, exactly. If you haven't discarded it properly, you haven't performed the mitzvah of hafrashat challah appropriately.
When do you actually make the blessing?
The hafra.
When you start saying the words when you're ready.
So there's different minhagim. There isn't actually a real halacha basis on it. What I tend to do is I sort of prepare. I pull from four. Why? By the way, anyone know why women pick from four corners of the dough to make the hafrasha? Because what did we say in the beginning? How was Adam HaRishon created? From the four corners of the earth, right? Being mixed up with the water. That's why we do the pull off from four corners of the dough, to remember that that's why we're doing this from the chatchila. That's a minhag. You don't have to do it. You've come out to the chava if you just pull it. Yeah, then there's also, it's a beautiful minhag to light a candle before, put tzedakah in, daven to Hashem that we should do the hafrasha with all our heart, and most important to say the words, l'chavod Shabbos Kodesh. I'll end with this, and then we'll do the hafrasha. Why is it important to say l'chavod Shabbat Kodesh? My kids laugh whenever I say this. Everything I do, l'chavod Shabbos Kodesh. Once I say it in Sephardi accent, once in Yiddish accent. I just, say it whatever comes to me. Why is it important? So the Svarim HaKadoshim teach a beautiful secret. It's such a beautiful thing that we learned that the man that the Am Yisrael ate in the Midbar had the taste of whatever it is. The more of a tzaddik that you were, the more likely you were to taste that food that you desired and you chalished for, that you wanted. And so when you say the words l'chavod Shabbat Kodesh, even when you're in the supermarket and you buy something and you have it in your mind that you're doing it l'chavod Shabbat Kodesh, it's important to say the words. Why? Because when you say the words l'chavod Shabbat Kodesh, the Svarim HaKadoshim teach us, Hashem stands over that particular dish that you're making. He takes the man that he gave us in the midbar, and he literally sprinkles it into the food. And that's how come your food and what you make, when you say l'chavod Shabbat Kodesh, actually tastes spectacular and tastes heavenly, because you've just sprinkled man now inside your food. And in every item that you've purchased, you have that ability to elevate it to the point where it tastes a little bit like Gan Eden. And so that's how come it's so important. Look at the matanot, the gifts that Hashem gives us only by using our mouth. All it takes is to say 3 words, l'chavod Shabbat Kodesh, harei zo challah. That's it. Hashem says, look what you could do with your mouth. Look what you could create and you could do with your mouth. That is the beauty. That is the rachmanis. That is the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for us. And He gives it to us, and He wants us to use it. He wants to give us the bracha. Hashem wants nothing more than to give us onik and to give us simcha. It's a matter of us opening up our hands and saying, Tati, give it to me. Be'ezrat Hashem, this month, it should turn into a month of simcha, that we should really feel the Abba embedded in this month. I have to give you this one more insight. Even though this is a month of Deen, even though this is a month of difficulty, Chodesh Av, I want to teach you that now we're living Plan B. But I want to share with you what Plan A of this month should have been. The plan A of this month, really embedded in this month, is a totally different energy. This is the month of total geula. How could it be the month of Deen? Because measure for measure, like there's Deen, there's also Rachamim. That's the way this world works. As much Deen there is in this month, that's how much of a geula there should have been also in this month, and I'm going to teach you how. The plan A of this month was that the Meraglim were going to go scout out Eretz Yisrael. They were going to come back with an amazing report on Tisha B'Av. They were going to come back to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they were going to tell Moshe Rabbeinu, let's get packing. We're all headed for Eretz Yisrael. And everyone was starting to pack plan A, where everyone was going to pack up their camels and pack up their riches and tread on into Eretz Yisrael. And on the 10th of Av, they were going to start literally walking start taking the steps forward to get into Eretz Yisrael. And it was a 5-day journey from where they were camping to get into Eretz Yisrael. And they were meant to land and step foot into Eretz Yisrael what day? Tu B'Av. The happiest day of the year, Tu B'Av, right? One of the happiest days, the days of marriage, the day of love. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu that day was going to build the Bet HaMikdash on Tu B'Av. Moshe Rabbeinu was destined to become Mashiach. And then we would have had the ultimate unity and wedding ceremony between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu on Tu B'Av. But instead, we're living Plan B right now. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, but involved in these days, the most difficult days of the year, you should know that there's a plan A hiding. And that plan A is the plan A of Geula. That Be'ezrat Hashem, we will see that. And that's where our Amunah comes from the tikvah, from the hope, from the yearning of and belief and the trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that at the end of the day, Golah is going to turn into Geula. The ultimate good is going to reveal itself, and Mashiach will come, and all good will be revealed in its ultimate perfected state. So remember, even though we're seeing dinim, we have the ability to go back to plan A and ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to please bring us back to plan A, and please bring us the Geula, and please marry us again, because we yearn for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We yearn to be united once again, Be'ezrat Hashem, with our Abba. So let's go ahead and do the mitzvah of Hafreshat Challah. We're going to daven for Klal Yisrael. We're going to ask for Geula. We're going to beg for Geula. We're an Am Kshe Oref. We're a stubborn nation. And we're going to say to Hashem, I'm not leaving Bet Gavriel without the Geula, right? Be'ezrat Hashem. Berachamim. Amen.